Well, hello again, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you again for tuning in. This is Madman. This is M.A.D, also known as f.e.a.r. And we are going to try to survive this board, as the ancient gamers of yore would have called it. Ooh, there they are. The NPCs, the evil NPCs of Paxton Fettle. Whew, shit, we got naded. Fuck. This fucker. Oh, damn, I mistook a bullet texture for him. Fuck you, dude. This game is a blast if you don't use the slow-mo. Shit. Somehow you're privy to their little communiques, so you can tell when they're gonna like throw a grenade. If you're listening, you can hear what they're doing. That's something I never considered, actually. I just thought of this. What if... Just a minute. You've interrupted me in my rant, sir. For that, I will not forgive you. Ooh, look, I'm popping up. Shoot at me. Anyway, as I was saying, I never thought of this till now. What if what you're hearing in the context of this game's narrative is actually them psychically talking to each other? Because they have earpieces. I don't know if you can... You guys have pieces on? Ear piercers? Do you have Babelfish shoved in your ear? You have Apple's anal base provider? Butt plug? Do you have that? No. Anyway. I can't tell. In the context of this game's narrative, where you as the player character are a powerful psychic, which the game reveals to you, really at the beginning it implies this, but I never thought of this. What if the communications that you're hearing that sound like static-ridden, military communiques between these soldiers? What if you're actually hearing their thoughts? That's interesting. That's interesting. It's an in-universe headcanon explanation for the game. All right, let's get out of fucking walk mode here. Some armor. We have a med kit. Good, we need those. Down to 1. Oh, man, my brain is aging. I can't play these epic games as well as I could. I'm playing this one last time, guys. I'm playing this for you guys. I'm playing this so that you can hopefully learn from my playthrough and hopefully glean some insight from it. Gleaning is an interesting thing. It's a practice where poor people were allowed to pick up extra grain after... a reaping was done, a harvesting of grain in a farmer's field. You don't know what gleaning means, that's what it means. Fire in the hole! Anyway. Enough linguistics, let's fucking... Ooh. Bioshock water? God. Oh shit, there's that little girl in the red. What are we going to do about her? We'll have to wait and see. Now. Some evil pallets of the dead. Ooh, first aid kit. Very good, very good. Ooh. Go back here. Can you come back out? Is there a thing? Oh, that's a different area. Fucking 40 of Old English. I used to drink that back in the day. Goddamn, that stuff will fucking rot your whole body. I know, I want simple carbs and alcohol. Straight up, the only alcohol you should ever be drinking is wine. There's a philosopher named Nassim Nicholas Taleb, and he has a very witty, funny book that sounds like a bunch of like shit posts. It's a very funny book. If you've never read anything philosophical, I recommend it. Or if you have read a ton of philosophy, I also recommend it. It's called The Bed of Procrustes. And Procrustes was an ancient Greek philosopher. I forget what made him notable, but Nassim Nicholas Taleb named his book after this guy, and his aphorisms are very funny. They're all like very witty, present-day relevant types of takes. They're like tweets. And he wrote this book maybe 10 years ago. And he has one phrase, which fuck, I'm forgetting it now. Jesus Christ. Brain is fucking rotting out of my skull. Anyway, whatever the phrase I was trying to quote, check out Nassim Nicholas Taleb. Or Talib, however you spell it. Nassim Nicholas Taleb. He's very funny. He has some very good takes. Ooh, spooky. Where are you, my dear? I will kick the paint can in your honor. Okay. Out here? No, nothing. All right. Uh-oh. We're having a vision quest. We're an oracle. My God. Notion of blood, like Evangelion. That same creepy doctor. Icarus, the man who thought his medical knowledge would save all of humanity, but in fact, he was engaging with forces he didn't understand. Oh man, you can see Alma there. Yeah, I knew there was going to be a skeleton. I actually never noticed Alma is actually on the operating table in that cutscene. Holy shit. She's reaching up with a hand.
No, but I found some human remains. Impossible to ID without lab work.
That can't be him. His life signs are a little unusual, but he's definitely alive. He's got to be around there somewhere.
I'll keep looking.
I'll keep looking too. Let's go. All right. Continue our quest here. Look at this shit. Like, I'm sorry. Look at that. Summon all your power to pay attention for more than 2 seconds and just look at that shit. This is 2004? 2005, maybe? I mean, my God, man. Like, this and the old Splinter Cell games, that blew people's minds. If you grew up playing Doom and all of a sudden they show you this, the jump in quality, holy fuck. I mean, eventually it's just going to be the disclosure that the UFO people are talking about. It's just going to be, well, reality is also a simulation, and we've confirmed it in every possible way, mathematically, religiously, mystically, everything confirms it's a simulation. That's going to be the disclosure. And the disclosure is going to be, aliens are actually us. The only way anything could actually shock people now is if you said that, if you told them that. Because graphical fidelity has just been, I mean, there just hasn't been any meaningful, it hasn't been any meaningful upgrade since maybe, I think the last game since BioShock that really got to me. Crysis, of course, that was 2007. Everybody was freaking out about Crysis. The problem with Crysis is the CryEngine is very inefficient. It's inefficiently coded. There's a terrific article that I think I mentioned once before on this channel, and it's an article about the beauty and the perfection of Doom 3's code. The code of Doom 3 is so efficient because PCs were so limited at the time that you needed to be efficient. You didn't have enough character space. Your page that you were writing on as a programmer, and programmers I think are like poets. They're very anal. They're very specific about quality. It makes them akin to bards and poets in the past. Good programmers, of course. The code of Doom 3 is so clean and efficient and tight. It's like it's like that girl that you meet that fucks a lot of guys, but she does Kegels and she takes like STD tests. She's very clean. She's militant about her health. She likes to fuck, but she doesn't want to be a degenerate. She wants to balance herself. It's a crude analogy, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. There's a Death Grips line, girl who knows how to keep a shit tight. Not to be misogynistic, but it's a useful analogy because that type of commitment to your health, in spite of players, aka guys in the analogy, using you constantly, i.e. players play Doom 3 a lot, right, on different systems which have limited hardware, the fact that your code, your core self, your integrity, your habits, which is basically just you, the fact that your habits are so disciplined and you're so precise about balancing your vices and your virtues, that's a good analogy for a good piece of code, a good piece of writing, a good digital poem. Is you have a series of constraints that reality imposes if you're navigating it, whether you're a man or a woman, whether you fuck a lot or you don't fuck much at all. The point is that you've recognized that there are limitations, and you're trying to work within those limitations. The constraints and limitations of reality are what makes you create beautiful things. It's constraint and limitation that are conducive to the creation of beauty. And beautiful things can be different and weird, but if there's not some kind of constraint or discipline applied to whatever that weirdness is, then that's when you get real degeneracy. Like, you can have a gay guy who's a great interior decorator because his one vice in his life is being gay, and he has to do that to channel some trauma or whatever the fuck he's dealing with. But in every other aspect of his life, he's clean, he's organized. Of course, he's clean physically if he wants to not get sick. But my point with this analogy is just, if you have a vice that you know you can't get rid of, in religious terms, if you have a demon, that is your vice, that is your thing, that is your flaw. If you're a crystal and your flaw is a grain of sand in your center. If you're, whatever it is, whatever metaphor you want to use, the same principle applies to the metaphor, which is, if you have that flaw and you know you can't get rid of it, and trying to get rid of it will drive you insane, it's a fantasy to try to sort of delete it from yourself. That's not possible, which is the case for everybody for something, some aspect of yourself that you're not going to be able to get rid of. You have to channel it or integrate it. Those are your two options. If you channel it, it means you create a habit or a behavior that is specifically designed to satisfy the demon, to bind it, to use its presence in you productively, to actually pleasure the demon and give it something to do. That's the point of a channel. There's an irony that we call YouTube channels. Like, that's a weird thing to me. That's a creepy kind of thing, because people go on here and they rant about things, they get overly sexual, and then they go back to their normal life. That's the point of the internet in its current form. As a facsimile of the collective unconscious, it is first and foremost a channel for things that can't exist in reality in the same way. Or if they do exist, they'd form habits that were functionally or otherwise worse for your life. So if you virtualize those desires and impulses, you can channel the undeletable, fundamental, permanent flaws that you have into something that is at least slightly productive. It may not give you any money, it may not gain you any friends, but at least it's doing something for you that is productive. And I think that's the best use of the internet right now. If you're not using it to make money, which is the best way to use it, the second best way is to use it as a free way to channel yourself. Just be aware that everything you're saying is being recorded by somebody. You got to be aware of that. You can't be afraid of it. You have to just accept it. And it's the same deal if you're at a bar with your cell phone. Your cell phone can record you, your friends. It can make a 3D map of the fucking room. And you can spurg out and have a baby tantrum fit in the supermarket, pounding your fists on the tiles about, oh, I wish mommy wasn't supervising me. And it's like, well, that's just how it is, man. If you don't like it, too bad. You're alive at this time. You chose to be here during this time period for a reason. And you can either accept the restrictions and the freedoms that you're being offered, or you can reject them. And if you reject them, you're going to have a much harder time in general. It doesn't mean I'm saying be a submissive, NPC about everything. What I am saying is, if you're going to respond to something critically, do so with some deft, with some tact. Be calculative and careful and precise about how you respond. Don't be a guy with a Gatling gun at the Civil War. Be the Finnish sniper who killed 500 Nazis, or whatever the fuck the meme is. be precise in your criticism. And if you do that, then if you're not happy with the constraints that you're being served, if they're not giving you the impetus to improve yourself, then you can say, I don't like these constraints. And, at some point, some person or agency that you're telling this to, or some group, whoever it is, will say, well, why don't you like them? And how can we be better? Like, this game is for us. If you're conscious, if you're listening to this and you have an inner monologue and you're a conscious human being, reality was made for you. And that's where the religious meme about, you're created in God's image. Reality is made for you. It's all this shit. It's a metaphorical way, an ancient metaphorical way of expressing that reality is a game. D&D, Magic the Gathering, all these types of games that focus on group activity against a kind of nefarious adversary. Sorry, I'm just going to play the game while I say this. All of these types of metaphorical narratives and systems of navigating reality are very ancient. And if they're not ancient, then they're based on ancient narratives. And they're a modern or a postmodern way of trying to emulate how effective ancient narratives were at actually telling people how they need to live if they want to live happily and well. You're never going to live a perfect life. That's a fantasy. And if you give into that, that's another type of hell. It's the same thing as being a degenerate. If you think you're going to be the perfect moral paragon, you're not going to. That's why we have the idea of sin and the idea of confession. In multiple religions, there are different terms used for these things. In modern times, the equivalent is, you rolled a 1 instead of a 20 when you're playing Baldur's Gate 3. Like, that's the modern equivalent of sinning, is you made a bad roll. Because when you perform an action, oftentimes you don't intend to do wrong. In fact, I don't think most people intend to do bad things. I think even evil people are trying to do good, and they see their adversaries as expendable, which is it in itself a kind of fallacious assumption, because you can't read the minds of your adversaries, your perceived adversaries. So in a sense, if you make that gamble and you say, I think I'm so confident I'm right, I'm going to kill millions of people, like Adolf did, or whatever the fuck. Pick your guy. Go back 1,000 years and pick a different person. Who cares? The point is, if you make that gamble, what you're doing is you're rolling a d20 and you just rolled a 2. Like, your gamble was rejected by fate, by God, by whatever the fuck force you want to, by probability, mathematics, physics. It doesn't matter what you call it. It's the same force. It's the same aspect of reality. And if you overestimate your abilities and your righteousness and your intent, you will very quickly become Icarus, and your wings will turn to flames, eating at your back. That is a fundamental truth, I think. But basically, what I'm saying with this is you don't want to be overly confident, but you also don't want to be obviously mired in despair. And when people are in despair, that's usually when they default to hedonism as a means of coping with despair, to give your soul, yourself, your brain parasite, whatever you want to call it, to give it a temporary dopamine hit. You will default to that, which is not a good idea either, because all you're doing is giving yourself another addiction you have to deal with. You're adding another vice, is what I'm saying. Shit, that grenade was fucking right next to me. Oh. Fuck. Fucker's gonna kill me. God damn, that was close. That was close, guys. The NWO almost assassinated us for revealing forbidden knowledge. Lucifer, Prometheus, and Christ were all similar historical figures. They were light bringers. They tried to reveal forbidden knowledge to the masses without consent from the elites, and were punished for doing so. Prometheus is an allegory for a drunk person who used alcohol to get himself in a state of mind where he could be uninhibited enough to receive insight. Christ probably was probably a gay pot smoker. If I had to characterize the actual real guy, probably a gay pot smoker back in the day. There you are. I see you too, you fucking idiot. And then Lucifer. Lucifer. Let me make it clear. What I'm about to say is going to sound like creepy NWO serving mind control cope type shit, but the thing about Lucifer is, historically speaking and mythologically speaking, and even literally in the religious texts that he appears in any context you want to summon up, he's sort of the shadow of Christ. Like, he's not good. I will never claim that the mythological figure or the archetypal representation or whatever. Oh, see, I'm dead. I mentioned Lucifer and now I'm dead. Karma. That's just him being a troll. That's fine. I'm going to keep talking about it. So the mythological figure of Lucifer is a shadow of Christ. He's like the edgy version of Jesus. The problem is, and I want to be very clear about this, Satan and Lucifer are completely different religious, mythological, archetypal figures. Satan is pure evil. That goes without question. If anybody says they're a Satanist and they actually understand the history of the nomenclature, the linguistic history of the emergence of that term and what it means, and the religions that have used it, the pagan gods, the Babylonians, etc., etc. If somebody says they're a Satanist and they actually understand the history, they are actually saying they're evil. If somebody says they're Luciferian, they're saying they're like Vin Diesel in Riddick. They're like, Jesus wasn't edgy enough. I want an edgier version of Jesus. I don't agree with the pacifist version of Jesus. So even if you're a part of some denomination of Christianity and you advocate for more extreme versions of spreading the gospel, what you're advocating for is fundamentally Luciferian. Because like Prometheus in mythology, and again, these figures are all related to each other, all these texts have plagiarized one another, they're fan fictions. My favorite term for this is fan fictions because I think it's completely accurate. You have Babylon, which collapsed, and you have refugees and escapees from that society that took its religious ideas and transmuted and converted and mutated them into new religions. The Jews were one group, or the Semites, or the Canaanites, whatever the fuck you want to call them, it doesn't matter. There was a group that came out of Babylon that took those ideas and said, we're going to repurpose these because we think that the philosophical and social control mechanisms embedded in these religions are useful. They're interesting. They make for a stable society where the vampires at the top can feed on the people on the bottom, and the people at the bottom don't even know they're being fed on. It's great. Everyone loves it. So they took these ideas and they transformed them in a way in order to repurpose them. The same way that you would take an artistic aesthetic and slightly modify it in order to create a new artistic movement. Like, oh, I'm going to take Impressionism and turn it into Cubism or whatever. Take your example. And in that sense, they took the figures of those religions and did the same thing. They said, well, we're gonna change this Yahweh figure into this god of rain and thunder into this figure, or whatever you want to. I don't know the specifics of these things. I want to make it clear that I'm an amateur in these things, and a lot of what I'm saying is based on internet rumors, so I may be spouting nonsense. But my intuition, which I rely on for a lot of things in my life that have... I'll put it this way. When I've denied my intuition, I've always been wrong. And when I've gone with my intuition or my gut, things have always gone right. So I don't know why that is, but that's just how it's been for me personally. So my gut tells me that while I may be inaccurate about what I'm saying, I'm being accurate enough to justify saying it. So anyway, there's a distinction that used to be very clear between Satan and Lucifer. And that distinction has been sort of obfuscated and muddled and lost. And I think that that's very weird. I think that the notion that that Christ can only be a pacifist is an interesting thing that certain interest groups seem to want to be an enduring thing. They want anyone who has Christian inclinations for whatever reason, whether you were raised that way or came upon that religion or that mindset. Even if you read one of the founding fathers' documents, which is very interesting to me, which I haven't read, which is called The Philosophical Teachings of Jesus of Nazareth. I think it's by Thomas Jefferson. It's one of the founding fathers of the States. And what he did was he said, well, a lot of people in the States, because we rebelled from Britain and we didn't want to be under the crown, a lot of people who left were edgy atheist types. And he said, I want to create a document that preserves the moral teachings of this figure in history called Christ, and I want to sort of make it more accessible to people who may not want to be religious. I want to show people who have a high degree of skepticism, maybe too high a degree, whatever you want to judge that as. Basically, this author said, I want to create a document that is not sanitized or bereft of the mythical value of the original Bible and the teachings, but I want to create something that communicates the same moral teachings to people who are possessed of a kind of skepticism. Like, I want to expand the potential repertoire of readers who might benefit from the philosophy behind these teachings. So he created this book called The Philosophical Teachings of Jesus of Nazareth, which is a very interesting book that I've heard of. I've read summaries of it. I've never read the actual book. But the reason I bring this up is there's been a lot of historical sort of slow but deliberate burying of things. And a lot of those things that are being buried are distinctions. And one of those distinctions is between Lucifer and Satan. Lucifer is not a good guy. You shouldn't be a follower of Lucifer. I don't agree that that's a good idea. However, Lucifer is not as bad as Satan. Satan is fundamentally worse. Satan is pure evil, according to the theology of Christianity, of the desert religions. If you think all of this is bullshit, I totally sympathize, because I don't think any of this is real personally. Personally, I think that there's a broader explanation that chimes with multiple religions, including the Abrahamic monotheisms. I think that there's an explanation that I won't say transcends them, but I'll say it includes their explanations as alternate metaphors for the truth. Because I think the truth is so difficult to digest that you actually need multiple metaphoric variants of it in order to appeal to different races, peoples, cultures, genetic loadouts, whatever you want to say. There needs to be enough layers of metaphor that anybody who is motivated enough to access that insight or that truth is able to do it. But I do disagree with this conflation of Satan and Lucifer. I think that people who want to demonize people who are Christian-minded, who want to be more proactive, and I'm using that term very generously. Christians who want to be more proactive, I think in the past, if history had gone differently and terminology had not been corrupted and polluted the way it was, might have been able to be openly Luciferian, and they would have been associated with Prometheus and Christ and other light-bringing, knowledge-bringing figures. And the reason I'm talking about all this is because I've been thinking about this lately, because the similarities between these mythological figures, there's a fundamental similarity, and it's very important, and no one's fucking talking about this. No one's ever talked about this that I've heard of. Prometheus, Christ, and Lucifer were all light bringers, and they were all punished for distributing forbidden knowledge to people in a contrary move to the opinions of the elites at the time. So they were all rebellious figures who said, the generic public needs to know this shit. They need to know it now. And we're going to just tell them. And all three of them were punished. Christ was crucified, Prometheus was chained to a rock and had his liver eaten out for eternity, which frankly sounds like a much more torturous thing than being crucified once and then resurrecting. I gotta give it to Prometheus. He endured that torture perpetually, like forever. Like, I don't know if there's a ancient Greek myth that says he was rescued. I don't think there was. For all we know, he's, metaphorically speaking, he's still on that rock having his liver eaten out. So he's been crucified a trillion times. I mean, we should all be Prometheans if we want to worship anything. Any sort of rebel knowledge bringer. And then Lucifer, of course, said humanity needs to know what they are. They need to know the nature of their being. And for that, he was sent to hell. Now, if you believe the Jewish scriptures about Christ, Christ is boiling in a pot of excrement for his crime of pretending to be the Messiah. So he's been consigned to a realm of shit, which is not as bad as having your liver eaten out, but I mean, if you're sitting in a hot tub of shit with demonesses next to you, I mean, you could probably learn to enjoy that after a while. You could probably learn to enjoy the shit after a while. You could probably learn to just pretend it's mud or manure. And after a while, you probably wouldn't care about the punishment. If you were in the shit realm, if you're Christ or a clone of Christ or a kin of Christ, you could probably just say, you know what? I love shit. Shit is great. It's like chocolate, it's like mud, it's therapeutic, it's got nutrients and fats and proteins in it. I love shit. Shit is great. Your curse on me is broken. Now what? If you were Christ, you might be able to say that. What's your next move? Come at me, you might be able to say that if you're able to adapt to that reality or that position of existence. But yeah, I mean, again, the reason I bring this up is this game has a lot of religious themes. The characters in it can be seen as archetypes for things like Harlan Wade, which is the daughter of Alma, the creepy ghost girl that we've seen a few times. He's sort of this. He's sort of this hubristic figure that thinks that he doesn't just think he can bargain with God, which might be possible actually, but he thinks he can circumvent God's plan. He's very arrogant. He's the archetype of the arrogant scientist, the scientist who practices bad science because science is about purging yourself of emotion and allowing divine rationality to inform your interpretation of material reality and allow you to more clearly see what the nature of creation is. And arrogant scientists, over the course of the entire inception of science, have been the ones who've said, my ego is so great, I'm going to make assumptions about my research that are not based on any sort of fundamental proof, replicable proof. And Harlan Wade is this one guy who says, well, I'm gonna throw out morality, and I'm gonna do these crazy experiments. I don't want to spoil it because I want to keep playing this game. So you know what? I'm gonna shut the fuck up. I've been ranting long enough. We're gonna keep playing for a few minutes, and then I think I'm gonna end the video because I'm running out of steam here, running out of improv ranting to do.
You have one.
Let's see what this phone message says.
Hey man, I heard something crazy's happening over there. You alright? Let me know. We're still on for Friday, right? Call me back, bro. I hope you're alright.
End of message.
Hey man, I heard some machine gun fire, and I saw some helicopters dropping bombs, and I heard some grenades go off. Hope you're doing fine. I hope we're still on for beers tomorrow. It's like the complacency in the face of the apocalypse. It's fucking insane how conditioned people are, man. It's absolutely nuts. Like, if you know what's going on and you accept it, that's one thing. But if you're denying it, if you're denying what's coming, you really got to wake the fuck up. And I'm not saying do anything drastic, but get the fuck out of here if you're not prepared for what's coming. Some of us have to stay because we've been designed to be here, myself included. But there are a lot of you who don't need to be here, and you don't have to leave through extreme means. There are other ways to leave. You just have to make it clear that you're conscious and that you don't like what's going on, and you'll be moved in your sleep probably to a different server of reality. The quantum suicide hypothesis is the most extreme version of what I'm talking about. You don't have to do that, though. Every time you dream, you leave your body. Every time you go to sleep and wake up, according to certain theories, you actually switch realities. And you end up in the most ideal place for your consciousness because consciousness can't be conserved or destroyed. The soul can't be destroyed. It just moves around. It moves around between alternate realities. I have a theory that this is why the multiverse shit has been bubbling up in the Marvel universe. It's not because they've run out of ideas. They have. That's not wrong. But the prevalence and the saturation of media with this multiverse idea has been very sudden. Like if you go back to like even the early like the 2010s, like nothing was dealing with multiverses. The most that they were dealing with was some esoteric weird time travel shit, like the movie Primer. If you haven't seen Primer, that's a good movie. But in the case of the multiverse, that's a recent thing, and the proliferation of that narrative tells me that there's some kind of focus that's being directed towards it, whether it's intentionally or not, whether it's artificial or organic. Again, it doesn't really matter. The point is, collectively, we're deciding we really need to focus on the multiverse. We need to tell people, hey, if you don't like where you are, focus on not liking it. And when you go to sleep, you're going to wake up in an alternate reality. Ooh. Did I convince you? Anyway, guys, I've had a lot of fun this recording. This has been great. Thanks for checking it out. Hope you enjoyed it. Reminder that everything I'm saying here is just bullshit. I'm just spouting off improv schizo shit. I'm just having fun. So don't take anything I've said seriously. That's a post video disclaimer. Just chill out. If you're high as fuck and you watch this and you're thinking, oh my god, reality's fake, like chill out. Even if it is fake, what are you going to do about it? Like, enjoy the ride. If you genuinely believe that, reality was made for you. Chill out. You're going to be fine. In any case, thank you again for watching. I appreciate your viewership and your support. And, as mechanical and corpo cucky and shitty as it sounds, every view and every like I get is a personal boost for me. It's an ego boost. I appreciate that. My ego's all over the place these days. I'm either in the pits or I think I'm God. It's not good. It's bipolar. Not quite bipolar, but it's an imbalanced thing. And it helps me to have tangible feedback from real people. Not bots. If you're a bot, fuck off. But if you're a real person and you enjoy this, I do appreciate it. And I hope you're doing well in your life. Hope you're adapting to the crazy times. Things are going to get crazier. Don't worry about it. It's all by design. It's just a revision to the nature of the game. It's something that will eventually help all of us to enjoy playing the game more. That's the point. The point is not to make the game a nightmare or to make it hell. The people who want it to be harder, the people who want it to be hell, they're not even here. They're somewhere else. The interdimensional players that don't want to have not an easy time, but the ones that want a real scary challenge, they're not with us. They're in their own server. They're in their own reality. They're having their own fun time. Don't worry about that shit. Worry about the things in your life that you've had nagging thoughts. Like, oh man, I should really do this. I should really improve this. Those are the little things. Those are the little fairies from Zelda that are floating above your head going, hey, listen. Like, they're not demons. They're not nagging at you. They're not poking you with pitchforks. They're saying, hey, here's something you could improve if you want to be happy. Like, that's what they're saying. Listen to those little instincts in your mind and follow them. Follow where they beckon you to go. And you'll have a better time, I think. But I'm just a madman. Don't take what I'm saying rather too seriously or too literally. In any case, guys, drink water, filtered water, and take vitamin D and get some sunlight. And stay close to your family. Unless they're abusive, nightmarish pricks, you really should. I sound like a fucking dad, but it's true. You might hate them for one mistake or another they made while raising you, but if you don't have kids, imagine trying to raise kids. Could you do it perfectly? No. Nobody could. Give them a break. Give them a hug. And over the holidays, spend some time with them. Anyway, sorry to get so sappy on you. I will end the video here. As always, peace out.